I did not plan that, guys. I'm sorry. You, I'm sorry. I didn't plan on that right there. But Oreo's getting a little demanding. Yes, he is. He wants his love all the time. Yeah. I can't say no. But we're going to have to start establishing some boundaries, little guy. That's right. I'm not your massage therapist there, bud. Love you and all, but, you know. You gotta... Anyway. This poor, sad 1938 Robbins Myers. It needs help. I got this fan about... Oh, shit. I've had this fan since at least 2007. Maybe even earlier. No, 07 is when I got it. Shortly after I moved into my condo. Maybe 08. This fan actually belonged to a family friend of mine, of my family's, who is now deceased. It was given to me by the guy who actually taught me how to use MS-DOS. He was an older gentleman. His wife acquired this somehow. I'm not really sure how. But the story goes, it was sitting in their... So they were my neighbors growing up. And I used to mow their lawn. And sometimes I'd use their lawnmower because mine was, you know, in need of repair or what have you. And they had this fan sitting in their shed. Now, I was probably maybe 10 years old at the time when I first saw it there. And I kind of thought it was cool. And I'm like, I'd like to acquire that thing if you want to get rid of it. I offered to buy it from them numerous times, and they said, no, we're going to hang on to it. And until one day, I got a call from, his name was actually Mac, or Frank, and his given name was actually Francis. Anyway, he said, hey, if you want that old fan, come and get it. So, I got into my car. By this time, I was in my early 20s. And I got in my car, and I picked it up and brought it back to my new condo. And I gave it a good once-over. I got it running again. The switch has really been a constant problem. I'm going to demonstrate it for you right now. So, yeah, I've owned this fan for many years. Anyway, let's see how she runs. So this thing has been through hell and back. Yeah, it's a little, the high position, not so good. If you put it on low, sometimes if you back it off on high, it works on low very consistently. And so when I got the thing home, I started, you know, fixing it up. I actually, I painted it this color. This fan was originally black, and it was pretty gross when I got it. It had been sitting in their shed for over 20 years. And I made a video of this, as a matter of fact. I definitely made a video of this back in probably 08 or 09. I made a video of fixing it up. But anyway, it's kind of, ever since I moved to this house, it's just been sitting in the basement because it needs work. It needs a switch, or we can maybe repair that switch. The head wiring is pretty nasty. It's a 3-wire bundle here. But all the castings are good. All the hardware is still here. It's a good runner. The oscillator works. Everything works. It's a good old fan, and it's in its fully extended position. Pedestal fans are very hard to find. Antique pedestal fans seem to be very difficult to find, and when you can find them, they're very expensive. They're one of the most expensive of the antique fans that I've found so far, other than those roto beams, which I could never seem to get my hands on one. But so we're going to clean this bench off. We're going to tear this sucker down. I think now is the time. You know, it's not so hot anymore, and you know the weather's kind of chilling off a bit. I think it's time to start another restoration. So we're going to take it apart and get an honest look of what we're dealing with. I'm going to chemically strip all the paint off this fan. It still has its original black paint underneath this god-awful red. I thought it looked cool at the time. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and it just didn't hold up. So it's all coming off. And we're going to redo the whole damn thing. This is actually chromed. But the chrome was pretty rusty from sitting in the shed. Alright, so let's get on with it. Alright, so let's get her unplugged. Now the power cord is obviously not original. I am going to order, when I get this restoration underway, I'm going to order some reproduction cloth wrapped wiring. I think that's the only way to go. You know, it's funny, when I started working on antique fans, that stuff wasn't available. It just didn't exist. All that fancy reproduction, you know, houndstooth, colored, checked, whatever, that wire didn't exist. You couldn't buy it anywhere for any price. That is a fairly recent thing, and I thank God every day that it exists, because I've done some pretty cool restoration jobs using that wire. I did the old Delco fan, which is in the living room here, and I did what else did I do? So I did the Delco, oh, and I did that Victor fan that's on my desk, and I used the reproduction cloth wire. The GE Vortelex, I did that. It was one of the earlier ones I had done, and I think I used some leftover twisted wire, which is incorrect for that fan. I will actually probably order some new wiring for that. As a matter of fact, we're reaching a point where some of those old fans are in need of a second restoration or a redo. And the GE Vortelex, which is a daily driver, I run it every night to sleep. It is definitely going to need to be done again. It's just been used and abused. I think I've owned that thing for about maybe 6 years now, 5 or 6 years or more, maybe more. So you got to get these shroud thingies out here. Here, there. And get these screws out. So with this one, yeah, I think you have to take the shroud and the blade off at the same time, if I recall. And it's better if you use a wrench, but I don't have any wrenches down here. They're all in the garage, and I'm too lazy to go walk to the garage to get them. Remember when all I had was one room to work in and live in? I know, I've gotten lazy since then. Yeah. Back in the day, about 3-4 years ago, I was living in a one-bedroom condo, which was the bottom floor, if you remember, was just basically one room, kitchen, living room, dining area, one small little room. All it was. And then I had the bedroom, which was... Actually, the bedroom was pretty good size. I'll admit it. It was about the size of an average master bedroom, I'd say, in an average house today. But, yeah, it was a small, small place. And doing projects like this was a challenge. Sometimes I'd have to work out on the deck, so I could only do work on nice days. So buying this house was a godsend. You know, being able to buy a house was a godsend. I got to be honest with you there. I got lucky, very lucky. Every day I just thank whatever powers that be, that me, a not terribly wealthy guy, with absolutely no financial good sense, was able to buy a house. Because when I bought this house in 2018, the real estate market exploded about 2 years later. And it's funny because the exact opposite happened when I bought my condo. When I bought the condo, the real estate market tanked. Probably within a few months of buying the place. Alright, so this little blade doesn't want to come off. I don't recall it being terribly difficult, but you loosen up the set screw. Oh, it's moving, it's moving. You guys see what I'm doing? Not that it matters. There we go. Ooh. Now this is the tricky part on these old fans. How do you get this blade out of here? Well, on this one, it's been about 12 years since I've had it apart. You have to, you know what, I think it is impossible to do without scratching the blade. Because if you look at where this strut goes, I'm sorry, this is heavy, so holding it up to the camera is kind of fun. But we're almost there. It's just, I gotta figure out a way to do this so that I don't scratch the blades. It's gonna be fun. Put these parts aside, and we're going to get the motor housing off. Let's take a look at that. We've got to undo some of the wiring. I'm going to take the switch plate off too. Now the motor housing is held on through 2 screws in the front of the right here and right here. You'll notice, oh, some of these screws, by the way, actually came from a Hunter fan. So Hunter, maybe someone can clear that up for me, but at one point Robbins and Myers and Hunter were the same company, or they bought each other out, or I don't remember what the deal was with that. But look at how dirty this sucker is. Now, I used to run this fan on a daily basis for a while. This used to be a daily driver. So this is all cast aluminum or alloy or something like that. Could be, it could be, I'm trying to think what they used back in the day for castings. But anyway, it's, the challenge is going to be stripping the paint off without ruining the tag. It is riveted in place, and I don't want to take those rivets out if I can help it, so. Doesn't say what model it is. WJ maybe, I guess. List number BD16A6OP. It's a 16-inch fan. That much is known. Alright, I think at this point we're going to take the switch plate off. One of these is actually stripped out. I think it was like that when I got it. Let's see if I have the camera set correctly. Let's see, we'll lower you a little bit. Okay. So I have had this fan apart once to repaint it and clean it, lubricate it. But beyond that, it hasn't really been touched in at least, I'd say at least 12 years maybe. Maybe longer. So yeah, this one's stripped out. That's okay. It's not really a big deal. Now here's the switch. What I got to do is we're going to get a good look at some of this wiring, and I'm going to take some pictures just to have here that shows where things are connected. Now these wires don't appear to be colored in any way. They're not color coded. So this is going to make it a little challenging, I think. I think they were color-coded, but you can see oil, I think, wicked its way down So I'm going to have to paint them or something. Alright, so I got some green paint here. And I'm also going to paint the part of the switch where it's screwed onto. We're going to reuse that switch. I'm pretty determined that we're going to save the switch. It just needs an attitude adjustment. So we're going to paint the wire. The wire is getting replaced. Oh wow, the green looks a lot like yellow. So I'm going to have to figure out something with that yellow one. How about some red? Put some red paint on that one. So red goes to mains. Now this is not a polarized system, so it doesn't matter whether it's hot or neutral. Green goes here and blue goes here. So it's got the 2-speed motor, so it's pretty simple stuff. So one of them is common, that's this one here, that's the red one. And one of them is the low speed, the other one's the high speed coil. So it's pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. You ever take something apart that you fixed or repaired or built years ago and then you realize just how much better you've gotten? I feel like that a lot. I've taken a lot of things apart that I've worked on, and I've kind of humbled myself and realized, holy crap, you know, either I didn't wire it correctly or I didn't take the time to do a certain task that would have made the world of difference. This one, at least it looks like I put a dab of solder on some of these wires, but damn, I could have done better. The paint job is probably the worst one I've ever done because I didn't prep it at all. All I did was I scuffed it up with some sandpaper and degreaser, and that was it. Now when I got this fan, it was covered in cigarette smoke. This fan was disgusting. It had clearly been owned by someone who smoked. Now the people I got it from, they were smokers. They were heavy chain smokers. So, all right. So here are the contacts in the rotary switch, the 2-speed switch, and you can kind of see why it's got all these problems. But I'm looking at this switch as not necessarily as a challenge, but I can see how I can fix it. Oh, I got paint in the contacts. That's always good too. You can see how this little tab, which is your common tab, so when it's in low speed, actually this would be high speed, it wants to contact here to here, like that, and then low speed from here to here, and then you've got, where's off? Oh, that's off, low, and high. So there's an unused finger here. This could have been a 3-speed switch. You can see right here, this is where the 3rd speed lug would be. So that's kind of neat. This could have been a 3-speed switch, but they decided to skimp out. We'll fix this switch. I am not worried about this at all. These switches are hard to find, especially anything remotely resembling the original one. So this is going to be a little side project endeavor. Okay. So I'm going to now pull this wire from here. I've got them all marked, and again, it shouldn't be that difficult to figure out what goes where. Again, you know, once I put it back together, I'm going to use wrenches, but I don't care about scratching the paint because we're going to take the paint off anyway. Now, I actually think I did take the motor casing down to bare metal, so that's going to be nice. And I say that because removing 1930s paint with paint stripper can be a bit more challenging than using paint stripper to remove modern day spray paints. They do come off pretty easily usually. But look at the dust. This poor thing. It has been neglected. I admit. I didn't do it right. Number one, I did a shitty restoration, and I didn't keep up on it. That's totally on me, guys. Yeah, I admit. It's totally on me. So I'm going to take these screws out, and I'm going to put these washers back on so nothing gets misplaced. I don't care. There's a nut on there's a jam nut. We don't want to lose that jam nut. I'll show you in a minute. Get this rotated around so you can see. But back here, there's a little jam nut on top of this oscillator pivot thing. It's actually an eccentric, if you want to be it's for oscillating, but it's called an eccentric crank, or bell crank, I think is the correct term. If you want to be politically correct about it, the bell crank. So we want to make sure that we don't lose any of those parts. Now the motor rear housing should just pop off, along with the armature. Let's see what we got. Yeah, it's probably so dirty on the snout of this motor. There we go. Just take that out. There. Okay. This thing is going to need new fiber washers. I just noticed they're cracked. So I got to find some of these fiber washers. These are pretty rough. Pretty rough. Alright. That's the other thing, is I never replace the fiber washers on my fans because I can never find them. So I just use what I have. This one just disintegrated in my hand. So we got to get some thrust washers. They're called thrust washers, by the way. And what you're supposed to do is adjust it so that it's in its magnetic center. I don't think anybody really does that. So there's that. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. To properly restore this fan, we need to remove the stator from the housing. And yeah, I got grease all over me. This is held in by a set screw, which is right there. I'm going to take that set screw off and loosen it up. And then the motor housing will just come right out. Like that. Okay. Don't want to drop any of these parts because they are irreplaceable. And this should just fall right out. Just like so. And you can see the insulation is just, it's gone. It's just gone. Just gone. But the wire, you know, look at the wire internally is actually good. It's just the outer insulation. Now there is an option that we have here where we could add, oh, look at that. Oh my, this thing got hot. Oy. So there is an option. We could actually sleeve this with shrink tubing, but it won't look right and it won't flex right, so we won't be doing that. But that is an option you have. Got some loose cord here. We'll have to, you know, I think that's why I did this. I think that's why I put these in, because the cord was loose and falling out, so I did that. This stator is not burned out. Obviously it ran, you saw it run, so we're good there. Yeah. Put that guy aside because we kind of need that again. Now all we got to do now is get some paint stripper and start stripping paint off of these parts. Now, so this stuff here, this is aircraft remover. It'll also remove the last 2 years of whatever schooling that you've taken, and it just, the paint just sloughs right off of it. It's also nasty. Nasty. I don't like working with this stuff, but it gets the job done. Oh boy. That's really only after, what, 10 more minutes? 20 minutes? And I'm starting to see some of the black paint poke through, so it's taking it all, and it's leaving nothing in its wake. The question is, Oh my god. I'm gonna have a fun time cleaning this mess up. Do it for the fans, they say. Only fans. Oh, that would be epic. I should create an OnlyFans with just fans. I thought it was funny. Oh, see, this stuff is starting to really get to me. Alright, so I've got the some of the parts soaking, if you will, in paint stripper. I had to buy some more paint stripper today. Oh yeah, we've advanced a day by now. So, anyway, my next thing is I need to get the paint off of this guy, and I don't want to get paint stripper on this data plate because it's in mint condition, and I just don't want to mess with it. So, I'm going to try to break the rivets off on the inside so that we can, I just bought a set of small chisels here. It's my smallest one. There it is. I feel that if I can somehow shear off the inside of the rivet from the inside, there's two little nubbins here, one here and one here. If I can break these off with a hammer and a chisel, then I can cleanly remove that data plate and not run the risk of damaging data. Okay. One ringy dingy. Of course, this metal's quite soft. We don't want to mess with that either. We want to be very careful and methodical with our approach. So, this metal is very soft. Oh wow. I could get a spatula thing here. I could probably pop this data plate off now that I've weakened the rivets. You know what I'm saying? Without bending it. Here. Just like that. Okay. And now we've got the data plate removed in one piece. And what we'll do is we'll reattach it with some double-sided adhesive tape or something. I'll clean it up real good. I just didn't want to ruin any of that. So now you can actually see the original color, which is a gloss black. So I've already ordered all the paint I'm going to need for this thing. And I went with I actually went with Sem's, because it's all aluminum. I went with Sem's self-etching primer and Sem's gloss black general purpose paint. I'm going to try Sem's products because I've used them for other things and I've had really good luck. So I feel that that's probably the safest bet. This is a good test bed for it. See how well it works. So now we got this. I'm going to get this thing all covered up and slathered and some paint remover, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we've got some stuff that's pretty much down to bare aluminum and whatnot. Got a few little areas where I'm going to have to do some mechanical paint removal techniques, but that's okay. But this is the front motor housing. Now, I'm going to show you the rest of it. Here's the rear motor cover housing. Again, a little bit of paint left. I'm just going to put a little more paint stripper on that. The gooseneck and switch box. Once again, a little more stripper should get her going. But we're getting there. Now, I don't know what caused this ultrasonic machine to crack like this. But I assure you, nothing traumatic happened to it. Must be that Harbor Freight quality. That's alright. For what I paid for it, I can't complain. I'd like to invest in a real ultrasonic machine, but they're just too damn expensive for the amount of use that I'm going to give it. So this one has the, which one's heat? That guy. So we're going to set it to 480. Let's see it do its magic. Now what I want to do is I want to use this ultrasonic to clean out the front bearing. As you can clearly see, it's pressed in there and I don't want to tear it apart. So what I want to do is use this with some of that solvent, it's actually a degreaser, to kind of clean out what's there. And we're going to just let it run for as long as we can. Hope for the best. But we'll let this thing do its job. It's going to discolor the metal. Just be prepared for that. It's going to really discolor the metal. But that's alright. It does a good job of removing any grease and other deposits if it's left in the solution long enough. So I'm going to throw this in there too. Actually, no, that's really gross. We'll do that one later. This thing is a piece of crap, but it you know, it does what it does. Now, while that's simmering, I'm going to put some stuff away here. Set this over there. Oh, liquid leaking out of it. That's always wonderful. So what I have here is the rear cover, the rear motor housing. Well, not the cover. This is the rear motor half and the gearbox. Now, what I want to do is tear it apart. My memory serves me, I actually did take this apart at one point and cleaned out all the old grease. But knowing me, I probably filled it with white lithium grease, which is not okay. Not okay. No, that's not what you use in a gearbox. Alright, let's see what we got. Should be, I use automotive wheel bearing grease, and I shouldn't be using this as a work surface. I should be using this rag. There we go. While I'm standing here, I'm going to continually hit the reset button on my ultrasonic machine so I can get that to run the whole length. All right, now this unscrews, and what do we got? Yeah, that's what I used. That's what white lithium looks like when you get it good and disgusting. All right, so we're gonna have to wipe all this out. And there should be on this one. So this gear down inside here is actually pounded in. So just like GE's, this looks just like a GE inside, similar. You've got that spur gear down inside there. It rolls this way. That's what It's what the motor shaft drives. I'll show you what I mean. You see, there's the motor shaft. It drives a spur gear down inside there. Now, what happens is, well, on most General Electric fans, you can very easily remove that gear by loosening up a set screw in the casting. But Robbins Myers in 1938, when this was made, did a few things that were a little bit shitty. What they did was they took this pin on either side and they reamed it in and peened it over, so you can't really remove it. Well, oh well. That's okay. We have an ultrasonic cleaner. We can use that to clean. We're going to clean out what we can by hand, by hook or by crook, and we're going to use the ultrasonic bath for the rest. Start with this top plate, and I'll just kind of wipe all this stuff off. Little washer in there, we want to keep that on there. We don't want to lose that because it's not replaceable. I ordered a set of thrust washers, well, fiber washers, to replace all the dried up, brittle phenolic resin washers that came on this fan when it was new. And I'm still with it 80 years later. Clean this plate up. Yeah. Not too bad. We'll do a better job of this in a minute. But what I really want to do is dig all this crap out. Oh man, that's nasty. No, that grease isn't doing it any favors. Hasn't for a long time. I like to use Motorcraft or equivalent chassis grease. It's got molybdenum in there, and I guess that's kind of a good thing. But yeah, I can see some of the original grease is still in here. I didn't do a very good job. I'm just going to say that. I can admit when I do shitty work, and this is one of those instances. I did not do a good job. But I figure this way. If I didn't take this fan, it would have been thrown away. No joke. It would have been thrown away over 12 years ago, and we wouldn't be here saving its life. So, alright, let me get more towels. Okay, apparently I'm a liar. This does come off. Which means that I can remove this shaft here. At least we can get that far into the gearbox. Makes the job a lot easier. So we can take this out. Don't want to lose that washer there. So wipe it clean. So yeah, we can do that. I mean, that's something, right? Now, again, let me make sure there's no washer on top of that. I don't believe I can remove this lay shaft here because there's no non-destructive way to remove the two end pieces. But progress is progress, my friends. There's so much thick grease in here that the brake cleaner didn't do a very good job. So I'm going to try the carburetor cleaner, and we'll give that a try. Alright, so now that I got the gearbox pretty much cleaned out, there's still a little bit of grease in there, but I'm running out of supplies. So what ended up working was actually engine cleaner, which is basically kerosene, and it ate up all that grease and peanut butter that was in there, and now it looks pretty good. Now you'll notice that there was a little bit of a red stuff sealant, it looks like, at the bottom of this bearing and in the bottom of the other bearing. And you're probably wondering why. Well, that is there to keep oil from spilling out. So we want to do our best to maybe remove as much as we can. And we're going to replace that with modern day silicone. I don't know what they used. It's probably some kind of asbestos, lead, arsenic, resin shit. But we're going to use silicone because that's what we got in 2021. And the rest of this, you want to let this guy dry as much as you can before you apply any oil or lubricants. So we want to let all this stuff dry out while we're waiting for our electrical parts and our paint supplies. So we got everything stripped out. I just went ahead and I cleaned the pole with some WD-40 and steel wool, and it looks as good as it's going to get. And we're going to put that side. So we're waiting for paint, we're waiting for primer, and we're waiting for wire. So I ordered all of my wire that I'm going to need for this. I got a nice houndstooth check, brown and black, 3-wire head wire. Oh, again, when I first worked on this fan, these supplies were not available at all. So things have changed, thank God. I'm gonna have to come up with a way to do, yeah, so here we go. So one of these is probably our common, I think it's this one. And this is our speed coils. Well, I'm sorry, so it's gonna energize maybe half these coils for low and the other half for high. So that's pretty simple. This is how, these are the easiest ones to work on. Because like I had one, it was a 3-speed. And the wire was, well, I won't get into that one. If the fan has a speed coil, that's even better. With a speed coil, all of your speed adjustment is done down in the base, and you only got 2 wires running up to the motor. But with these, this is a 2-speed fan, all the speed is done in here by energizing or de-energizing coils that are not necessary for lower speed. Anyway, so this should be pretty straightforward. I'm looking at the wiring situation now. It's pretty uneventful, I think. All right. Hey, buddy. Now all I gotta do is practice putting this fan blade in this shroud. Now the shroud is going to be the hardest thing to do. Not the shroud, well, the grill. It's going to be the hardest to do. I'm going to remove the badge, or the badge plate. I clear coated this many years ago, and it's holding up pretty good. So this is holding up quite nicely. But what we got to do is we got to clean. This is going to be a manual labor, probably a 2-day process. Clean these struts up real good, and then we're going to apply, because it's steel, I'm going to paint it with silver paint. It's the best I can think of. Getting it chromed is not going to be economically feasible. This is probably nickel plated, because chrome was, maybe it could have been chrome. Could have been chrome. But I got to practice getting these blades into the shroud without damaging the paint. That's going to be the difficult part while it's mounted to the motor. So I know it can be done, I just don't remember how. I know there's a way. I think you know what, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So you gotta slide it in this way. But how do you do it without scuffing the paint is beyond me. I think if I were to cheat a little bit and maybe bend these struts in or out to get them out of the way. Yeah, that's how it's done. It's a little bit of trial and error. But you can see right here, this strut wants to scratch the shit out of that blade. So maybe if we bend it in without breaking. It's in now, okay. Now to get it back out again. Yeah, that slides in like that, or slides out like that. You can't really see any of this, can you? Pull the camera away here. Yeah, this is very difficult. This is very difficult. So if I, maybe if I bend these struts in a little bit. Yeah, you're just going to scratch the shit out of the blade by doing it that way. Let's try that again. So it goes in like this. I guess what I could do is put tape. Put some tape on the on those ends right there. There's always a way, though. There's always a special way for each fan. Again, we can do it. We just can't do it without scratching the shit out of the world here. That's the hard part. And we're gonna bend them back. Maybe these need to be bent outward. Well, we'll play with it later. For now, that's all for now. I'll see you guys back in the next half of the video when we have all the rest of the stuff we need. I'm going to continue trying to clean things up a bit. I'm probably going to drop this guy in the Ultrasonics right now. A little more liquid in there. Yeah, maybe clean off some of that old grease. Water in that bath. Until then, folks, you have a great day.